This tiny and delicious tart design leaves a big impression. Here's how I made it. I'm using chocolate pâte sablée for the tart shell and decorations. Line a 5-inch or 13-centimeter tart pan with a circle of dough, making sure to press it firmly against the edges of the pan. If the dough begins getting too soft and sticky at any point, just pop it into the freezer for about 10 minutes before continuing. Use a fork to dock the shell and chill it again before blind baking at 320 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. I cut out a separate cookie for Bigfoot's face to ensure the final character has maximum 3D impact. First, I'm flooding his face section with hybrid consistency royal icing, leaving holes for the eyes. After that dries for a few minutes, I'm adding a triangle shape for his snout area. Then pipe domed eyeballs and a nose. Allow the eyes to dry for a few minutes, then add eyelids. Make sure the eyes are completely dry before adding pupils with a fine tip edible pin. I'm going to be using open star tips in 2 sizes to pipe Bigfoot's fur. Beginning with a Wilton number 16 for his facial hair. Using stiff consistency royal icing, I'm piping tufts of hair around his face. You can use a paintbrush to gently redirect any fur that goes a little too wild. Bigfoot's body is going to be very layered, so I'm building up the design starting with his toenails and hands. For his hands, I outlined the shapes first, then, after that had dried, flooded his fingers. I'm piping around his toenails just to make sure these areas are covered. Then, I'm outlining and flooding his arms to make them stand out a bit over the rest of his body. I'm using a Wilton 18 tip to pipe fur on his legs, back to the 16 for his trunk area, then the 18 tip again for his arms. It's a subtle difference, but it adds a really nice contrast to the finished look. I wanted to make all this fluffy texture really pop, so after allowing it to dry completely, I'm using food coloring to paint some shadows and highlights and add additional contrast. Shadows would naturally be darkest under the arms and below the belly. Then I'm hitting the high points of the fur with a lighter color. I'm using a generous dollop of royal icing to attach his face to make sure it stands out above the rest of his body. I'm adding 3 trees, painting directly onto the baked cookies using poppy paint in shades of blue. Then a snowy effect by piping a few lines of royal icing and lightly dipping the trees in sanding sugar. I'm filling my pre-baked shell with a layer of dark chocolate ganache to represent the ground. So this only needs to cover about 1/3 of this space. Then I'm filling the remaining 2/3 with blueberry filling. Next come the trees. I'm using white candy melts to add a bit more snow to the ground, and also as glue for attaching Bigfoot. Then some sprinkles to add sparkle to the night sky. And here he is, a cute and delicious little Sasquatch treat. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.